everybody, and welcome back to another course in our web development series. This is going to actually be the last video that's dealing explicitly or strictly with HTML. So let's go ahead and get started. We're going to cover a couple more tags that we haven't talked about. Then we're going to cover what to do with special characters and spacing. And we're also going to cover just a little bit about search engine optimization, or SEO as most people call it. So let's come right in here. Again, this code, if you don't have this, if you just type an exclamation mark, it will go ahead and auto-generate all of that for you. But I already have that, so I'm not going to do that. In here, we're just going to talk about a few tags that we haven't talked about yet. So inside the body, typically, if you look at any website, the first thing that you see up top is usually a banner or a header. And inside of the header, typically they have navigation. So what you want to do for your header is put that actually inside of a header tag. And then for any navigation that's in there, we want to go ahead and put that inside of a navigation section in there. So in there, we might have a few anchor tags, and we'll set that link later. We'll just call this, for now, that's just going to be our A anchor tag. And if I go ahead and load that page, you can see it shows up with an A link there in my header. So that would be how you group a header tag. After that, you have your main tag, and that's going to be for the main block of your page. And inside of the main block of your page, you can have a couple different things. We can have maybe different sections. So we'll just add, this is my first section, and let's go ahead and copy all of that. And we can say, this is my second section. And you can see we're getting sections that are built here. And maybe just I'll put some HRs in there for the horizontal divider, just to show that a little more clearly. And now, after the sections, you also have your details. So let's say we want to have a details drop-down section. Say this is my details drop down. And if I load that now, you see I have a details drop down here. And if I click that, it displays whatever I put inside of there. So that's like a collapsible details drop down that you can have. And typically those will have a summary or a title above them. And for that, we use our summary tag. And we can say this is my details summary. And that is going to be what that looks like. There's your summary for your details tag. And after the details tag, there's one more tag in the main section that we'll talk about. And that's going to be our aside tag. And an aside tag is typically for data or for things you want to display on your web page that's coming from somewhere else. So for example, you might put an ad in here. And actually, these are quite commonly used for ads. So we'll go ahead and put just a P tag in there for now, saying this is an ad. And then after the main section, there's one more section down below. And if you look at this, you can probably already guess what it is. You have your header, and then you have your main. And then after that, on the bottom of any web page, you typically have your footer. So inside the footer, usually, you'll have your copyright information. So it'll say something like copyright 2024, and then that little C with a circle around it, which brings us to our next topic here. So if I were to go ahead and save that, you can see it just says 2024 C. Now, how do I get the C with a circle around it for the copyright logo? Well, you can do that using what's going to be called HTML entities or special characters. And to get HTML entities, let's just go up here and we're going to say this is going to be our A entities list. And for the href, I'll put this link down in the description below. But basically, this is going to be a list of all of the different HTML entities or special characters that we can use within our code. So if I save that, and now if I click on that, you can see here we've got an alphabetical list of all of these different special characters that we can put in. And the way that this page, at least, is organized is this is going to be all the A's. And then if I hit next, it's the B. And then next, it would be the C. And obviously, if we're looking for a copyright logo, we'd want to scroll down in the C until we find a copyright, which is right here, copy, and it's number 169. So basically what you need to do in your code is instead of putting a C, we are going to put a ampersand, a hashtag, and then 169. And now if I save that and go back to this web page, you can see now I have my copyright logo sitting there as well, the C with that circle around it. So you can definitely take that list and browse through it and look at all of the different special characters that we can use. But one other one that's fairly notable that we'll mention here, let's say I want to put in here, I want to put some extra spaces in between this 2024 and then this copyright logo. So you might think that I can just come in here and press space a few times and then save that. But you'll notice when I do that, nothing changes here. And that's because HTML is going to read this entire block, even though that's a bunch of spaces, it's going to read it as just one single space. So if I want to add additional spaces, I have to use another special character, which is going to be ampersand and then NBSP with a semicolon after that. And this NBSP stands for a non-breaking space, breaking as in line break, meaning if I put that there, this will add a space without adding a new line. So if I paste that a few times and then save that, now you can see that that non-breaking space shows up there and we have that additional space there as well. Obviously, when we get into CSS, there might be a lot of other ways that we could do this, right? We could split these into different span texts and then add some padding in between them, but we haven't got into that yet. So just with HTML, this non-breaking space is how you would add additional spaces into your text here. Now, one more topic I want to talk about before we close out with this video and close out with our HTML section of this class is we need to talk about search engine optimization. And basically what that means is whenever I go to Google, let's say I go to Google here and I type in HTML, and you can see here, HTML tutorials, W3 schools, that's the top one that comes up. And then I scroll down a little bit and I have Wikipedia, and then I have MDM web docs and HTML.com, right? So if somebody's searching for your website, especially if it's like a blog or an e-commerce site where you're trying to attract a lot of traffic to your website, you want yours to really be on this first page, because nobody's ever going to scroll down all the way to, it just keeps going. We very rarely scroll down and keep going. Usually I click on the first, maybe the second or the third one, but beyond that, I'm not going to go down looking for what I find if the search engine didn't find it. So search engine optimization, or SEO, is basically making your website appear higher up on this list when people are searching for the content that's on your website. And there's a couple of different ways that you can do that. One is just give your website a very good title, right? So if you're writing a website and on your website you're putting a bunch of different HTML tutorials, if I just write HTML, that's not a very descriptive title, and that's not going to help your search engine know that if somebody goes to the internet and searches HTML tutorial or HTML walkthrough or learn HTML, the search engine is not going to know that your website's about that. So what you want to do is something much more specific, like HTML, a beginner's guide, or a maybe basic tutorials, or something like that. We'll just leave it at that. Basically, you want to have a title that is specific enough to tell the user and the search engine what is on your site, but not so long that it's too much of a mouthful. So after that, there's a couple different metadata tags that you can add here as well. And definitely one that we'll talk about here is one called the keywords. So basically, if I come in here, I can say meta and then colon. If you type KW for keyword, I can add keywords into my content here. So if people are looking for HTML, I want my site to come up, but I also want it to come up if they're looking for tutorial or basics or learn or something like that. But you don't want to put too many here. Probably 2, maybe at most 3, because if you put too many, if I come in here and I say HTML tutorial, learn, school, code, debug, walkthrough, right? Eventually, when we put this many different words in there, the search engine is just going to think, hey, this guy is just spamming different keywords, so I'm going to ignore all of them. And then it's not going to actually work in your favor. So what you want to do is just pick 2, maybe 3 keywords that are really relevant to the content on your site and put it within this keywords metadata tag. Another helpful tag that we have here is going to be the metadata description tag. So you could say meta description, and then in here, basically you want to put a good description of what content is going on your site. So in our case, if we're doing HTML and web development tutorials, we can say something like a great guide for people who are just starting to learn web development using HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So this is a long enough description to tell us exactly, it tells the search engine exactly what's on your site, and it tells, hey, we're looking for people who are just starting to learn, and here's the things that we're starting to learn. That way, the search engine will be able to categorize your site properly. And again, these metadata tags, these are not something that people, like the users, are not going to see that. This is just data that the search engine and any developers or anybody any robots that are web crawlers that are looking at your site, they're going to see this data. And that's what Google and Yahoo and Bing and whatever other search engines are out there, that this is the data that helps them categorize where your site should appear inside of the search when people Google you. And then one more thing you can put in there for that, you can actually say meta, and then inside of here, we could say name is equal to author. And then finally, we can say content is equal to, and then you can put your name or your company or whatever. So I'll put my name in there for now. And then one more piece of advice I would say is go ahead and use your fav icon or your favorite icons. And basically, if you look up on the website here, you can see my page right now, HTML Basic Tutorials, has just this gray circle icon. That's the default for Chrome. And then if you look on Google, they have this Google image. So if I were to come in here and pick on any of these other ones, now you see, well, now we have the MDM logo. So basically, you want a logo on your site because it shows that, 1, it wasn't made by a complete beginner, and then 2, it shows that, hey, you took the time to even fill out just a small detail, but these small details really do matter and make you look much more professional if you have them. So that being said, I've copied this logo.png right into here. And to get that fav icon, all we need to do is type link, and then in here we could say fav icon. And basically this href is going to be a link to your image file. So I could say logo.256.png. Now if I save that, you could see my logo on my site just toggled to that blue fish logo that I had. And basically that's just going to give your site just one more small detail that actually really is important, because with how much competition there is out on the internet, these small details really do matter these days. So now with all of that being said, the last piece of advice I would give you for search engine optimization, and really just for readability in general, is make your URLs readable and meaningful. Like for example, here, this isn't readable because it's just my local IP with a port and then index.html, the name of my file. That's not helpful. But if we go to here, you'll notice this MDM site, we have developer.mozilla.org. So we know the organization, English US, so we know the language. And then we have documents, web, and then HTML. So just off of reading this URL, I know exactly what this website says. So you want your URL to be somewhere similar to that. You wouldn't want this to be like Mozilla or developer.mozilla.org some database unique ID identifier. That's not helpful, and it's definitely not going to help you with your search engine optimization. In this video, we covered all of the different sections that we hadn't talked about before, or all the different tags rather, down here. We also talked about HTML entities and how we can use them to get more spaces or even special characters into our HTML files to display. And then finally, we wrapped up by talking about search engine optimization. So this is actually going to be the last video in the HTML part of this course. So like and subscribe, and we will see you in the next video when we start talking about cascading style sheets and CSS and how we can actually take our web pages and bring them to life and look much more modern and actually look good as opposed to just text on a white background. So we will see you in the next video.